The U.S. Supreme Court has dealt a major blow to LGBTQ2S plus rights, ruling the constitutional right to free speech allows certain businesses to refuse to provide services for same-sex couples. The 6-3 ruling, backed by the court's conservative majority, overturned a lower court's ruling that had rejected a Christian website designer's bid for exemption from a Colorado law. It is the first time in the court's history that public businesses have been granted the constitutional right to refuse to serve people from a protected group. And a big blow for Joe Biden. The president says he is going to announce new actions to protect student borrowers following the court's ruling this morning that blocked his plan to cancel $430 billion in student loan debt. The court argued that the president overstepped his authority and must get the approval of Congress before undertaking the program. If no action is taken, borrowers will be on the hook for repayments by late summer. I want to bring in Eric Ham now. He's CTV's political analyst. Eric, hello. Thanks for being with us. So, boy, talk about a lot to digest right before the long holiday weekend from the Supreme Court. Let's begin with the first decision, a real blow for LGBTQ rights. Businesses may be able to refuse service based on sexual orientation. What do you make of this decision?
You're right. This is a decision that is certainly going to reverberate throughout the LGBTQ community. In fact, we saw in the dissent by Justice Sotomayor, where she believes that this has the ramifications, this new decision has ramifications that could potentially impact other communities, such as people of color and other communities that they believe is now a license for businesses to openly discriminate against other individuals. So it's going to be interesting to see how this decision plays out. And of course, politically, will this motivate millions of people in the same way that the Dobbs decision last year, where, of course, we saw the courts overrule 50 years of precedent by eliminating Roe v. Wade, which allowed a woman a right to choose.
And this all stems from a case in Colorado where a woman did not want to have to provide services for a same-sex couple?
Well, yeah, and that's interesting. And this is also something that was brought up during the discussions and the deliberations on the court when they announced this decision today, because the individual who runs this business is not someone who actually discriminated against someone. She actually brought this lawsuit saying that in the event that there is a same-sex couple, she wants to have the right to be able to turn away such business. And so, again, the dissenting view of the minority on the court actually believed that perhaps this was not a case that should have even been brought before the court because there was no actual aggrieved party. It was simply the owner of the business saying that would she have to actually make this choice in the event a same-sex couple wanted to actually use her services.
Okay, let's turn to the other decision today, the one that blocks President Biden's plan to cancel student loan debt. Conservatives said that the president overstepped his authority. This has to come as a real shock for all those people who were thinking that their loans were going to be forgiven. Now what?
Well, now what that means is they're back on the hook of having to pay those student loans. But what this does is it nullifies a major campaign promise that President Biden offered during the campaign. And so now, again, if we're talking about one community, the LGBTQ community, that might be riled up heading into an all-important 2024 election cycle, this is, again, another issue that could potentially mobilize young voters. And we're talking about voters that, if you're looking at elections that are decided by 2 to 3 points, these are decisions that certainly could have an impact on elections next year. Because one of the major takeaways, I may not necessarily agree with it, is that many believe that elections have consequences. And of course, because you have 3 justices that were placed there by former President Donald Trump, many believe that now we're seeing the result of those decisions. And of course, this will certainly have an impact next year when people head to the polls.
Eric Ham, he is our CTV News political analyst. Eric, thank you.